Hi, this is Don. Is somebody on the phone?
Can you hear me or see me? This is Steve Logan and South Charleston Toastmasters Club.
Hi, this is Don Schulze. How's everybody doing tonight?
Well,
Great. I heard Steve Logan, who's also on the phone or video.
yeah, the video. Yes, that's correct. Steve Logan from South Charleston.
Yeah, welcome, Steve.
Gail Kelson is on. Hi, Don.
Hi, Gail. How are you doing?
Doing great. Good to hear your voice, Don.
You too. Who else do we have on the phone or online? David, are you on the phone yet? I know you were still commuting on the way in.
Hi, this is Tyler Wingard. I just joined.
Hi, Tyler. Welcome to the call.
Hey, thanks.
And Tyler, what club are you a part of?
I'm with Triangle Toastmasters in Newport, Kentucky.
Oh, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, Brandon Clark is here from Columbus, Ohio.
I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, it's Brandon Clark from Columbus, Ohio.
Hi, Brandon. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. And remind us what club you're a part of.
We're Masterminds in Gravy Yard out of Columbus.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Just checking to see if David Hill is on the phone yet. David, can you hear us? Okay, we were having some audio issues here earlier. That's why you probably could see the screen for those of you on video, but couldn't hear me. We're having a little issues. But well, why don't we go ahead and get... I think I heard somebody. Go ahead.
It's David. I have to pull over so I could call in first. So sorry to be late, everyone.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, David's commuting from Kentucky today. He supported a charter party down there, and now it's hitting some weather coming back home. So be safe, David. Be careful.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else would like to announce themselves before we get started? Okay, well, welcome today. We're glad to have you all. And this is one of a series of Wednesday webinars so that we can get as much information out to our members, our officers, to go ahead and help them in any aspect of Toastmasters that people may need help with. Today's focus is on guest to member. So we're really focusing on the portion of you've already gotten the guest in your meeting, and we're going to try to help you help them become members of your club. So before we get started, I wanted just to, again, check to see if anybody else has joined since we had our introduction. Okay. So on the next page, first of all, again, welcome. We had our introductions, so we're going to facilitate this between myself. I'm Don Schulze. I'm the district director here in District 40, and we also have David Hill on the phone. David Hill is our club growth director, So as Club Growth Director, David is responsible for adding new members and also building new clubs for the growth of our district as well. And then we're going to tag team that. So we're going to be recording tonight. So in case you weren't aware, I just wanted to let you know we are recording this webinar for future posterity. And so just making everybody aware so it's not a secret. If later on you ask a question, and you may be able to see that at a later time on one of our website productions. So let's go through the agenda real quickly here. We're going to talk about what's the foundation for having new members. We're going to go into greeting the guest. We'll talk a bit about understanding the selling process. We'll talk about how to close, and then what guests need to know and some frequently asked questions. And then we'll wrap it up with what to do when they ... because there's all kinds of scenarios that you can be confronted with, and we want to just have a discussion of what you can do in various different scenarios. And then obviously what we'll do is have some questions and answers at the end of the call. So first of all, let's go to the foundation for new members. And I like to call this the 5 M's. First of all, the first M of new members is that you have a meeting that begins and ends on time. A lot of people don't realize the importance of having timely meetings. And if you think about when you're at work or you're in a volunteer scenario and you're sitting in a meeting and you were told it's going to end in an hour and it ends an hour and a half or hour and 45 minutes, you have to start wondering how efficient is this meeting if they don't begin and end on time. So again, one of the most important things you can do is make sure that you're punctual in your meeting aspects. The next thing is really a key foundation element is having momentum. And what that means is the meeting is moving at a good pace. People are familiar with what they're supposed to do in the meeting. It's organized. It's lively. People are having fun. It's something where you would actually want to go to that meeting again after attending it the first time. Just in my own personal experience, when I'm at work, sometimes I'll go to meetings where I'm just looking at my watch, wondering when that meeting was over. It's really dull. It's really, going on one after another. Some people, it just sounds like they want to hear themselves talk sometimes, and you really aren't getting anywhere. I really don't want to go to a Toastmasters club if I've experienced that similar thing at a Toastmaster event. I've had enough of those types of meetings in my own work. I don't need another volunteer club to go to that's like one of those meetings. So make sure you're having fun at your meetings. Make sure that they move at a good pace and that there's a lot of momentum. Then the other M is motivated and energetic members. If your members are just sitting there and not talking to one another or involved in the meeting, if they're just looking at their phone or they're really not participating at all, the guests attending that meeting will wonder, wow, if the members aren't really engaged, am I going to be engaged when I start attending these meetings? So really, you want to make sure that everybody in that meeting is motivated, energetic, excited to be there. And then that leads us to the next M. You want to make sure that the new members are made to feel at home. If they feel like they're either an afterthought, if people don't know what to do with them at the meeting, then they're not going to feel very welcome. You want to make them feel like a family member, like they've been a part of the club the whole time. You make them feel special. It makes sure that they feel that this is their new home. This is something that they can feel comfortable coming back and being a part of that group. And then the final M is having a membership packet. That's a really key area where members, guests who are coming to a club want to have something to look at. They sometimes want to have something to take back with them after the meeting, something that they can refer to. And what I like to get into in a little bit here is maybe some brainstorming of what you use in your membership packets. There's a lot of variety there. There's no one right answer, but it's something that can really describe what your club is all about, and also a little bit of who they can contact afterwards as well. So let's pause a second. David, do you want to add anything to that discussion of the foundation for new members?
Sure. Thank you, Don. Just briefly, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that you definitely want to make sure is to greet the guests. A lot of times, we will, maybe one person might say something, or we're caught up in talking amongst ourselves and a guest comes in. Take the time out to have more than just one person greet the guest. I know when I first joined, there were two young ladies there. Both of them greeted me. I felt, welcome. And that's one of the key things that we want to make sure we do every time a guest comes, whether it's an open house or even if they're just coming on their own. As far as the membership package, that's a good thing. At the end, and I know Don's going to touch on this, but help them fill out the application, if you're closing that sale. Don't be afraid to just say, hey, this could be a little confusing. If it's all right with you, can I help you fill out this application? You might be surprised how many people will be okay with it. Other than that, that's my little say for right now.
That's great. Thank you. So on that point of membership packets, let's go out to some of you and just find out, what do you put in your membership packet? So first of all, do you have a membership packet? And if so, what are some of the things that you put in them? I'll just open up to anybody who would like to offer that.
Hey, this is Tyler. We have a pretty, what I've seen as a pretty standard membership packet, I think. It's a couple brochures about Toastmasters. I think we have a guide to pathways in there as well. And we have a sheet that the visitor can fill out that says why, how they found us, why they're interested in Toastmasters, maybe any goals and contact information as well.
That's great. That's nice. That's great. Does anybody else have anything additional that they put in their membership packet? Okay, well, let me add some suggestions of what I've seen other clubs do, as well as some of the clubs I'm a part of. Some will put an actual Toastmaster magazine in there, and that is really a wealth of information that provides a lot of articles, a lot of stories, and it's really a validation tool that talks about what they can get out of being part of Toastmasters. When you're talking to them, you can actually show the magazine and say, you can either get this mailed to you or you can get this online. And it's a wonderful bit of information that you get free as part of your membership. I know other clubs will put an info sheet about their club. So, for example, what is special about their club? They may list all their officers with contact information for them. They may provide, again, a reiteration of the meeting times, etc. Other clubs will put in various other information, such as you mentioned, Tyler, pathways, but some of the different paths to talk about that and how you can navigate within those and get your different goals met. Let me ask Gail or Steve Logan, Gail Kelson, if you all are still able to hear us and see the computer. Do either of you add anything else in your guest packets?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have specific packets, and that's a great idea. I think I'd like to incorporate that. But what we do, sometimes we do give out a Toastmasters magazine, and we take their email addresses so we can put them on the agenda list when we have our meetings. And we, yes, could really benefit from some of these ideas that you're just presenting, and actually have a physical packet.
That's great. Yep. And
Yeah,
Toastmasters actually provides through their store a really nice professional packet that also includes a magnet with it and some additional information. There's a ruler that is the top 10 tips for public speaking. That is a really nice giveaway as well. So there's some other ideas if you want to purchase those at the Toastmaster store.
And what do you look up? What's the category?
It's just membership packets is all you need to look for, and you can get those from them. And actually, one of the specials that we offer part of the district, in case you hadn't heard, is if you are having a specific open house, if you go to our D40 website, you can register to get 10 free guest packets from us, and then you get those from your division director in your different regional division. So
Okay,
something to think about if you want to try that.
yeah, that
hey
sounds good.
Don, this is Gail. Just one thing to add along with that. I think all these are great ideas. One of the things that we have done in some of the other clubs that I've been a member of is include what your agenda is, your upcoming agenda. Maybe you've got some specialty events that are occurring, and that's a fantastic way to do some early marketing and promotion of those events and kind of get people, get the buzzword out. And then also, direct folks to if you have like a corporate club, an intranet site where they can join in the conversation as it relates to what's going on with the local Toastmasters club.
That's great, Gail. Yeah, thank you very much. That's perfect.
Hey, Don.
Perfect.
Don, I know you had mentioned clubs that, talk a little bit about themselves, but, when you have those letters, don't be afraid, ladies and gentlemen, to add your awards in there. Any kind of recognition, whether you were select distinguished, president's distinguished, and then just put a little brief description so that the members will know, hey, this is a really good club, especially some of those clubs like a Agawisi or City of Columbus Midway, those clubs that year after year kind of get those awards. That's not a bad thing to put in there. Or if one of your members was like a division director of the year or a Toastmaster of the year or something like that, make your club stand out and make it interesting for that guest to really want to join because they came to your club for a reason. So give them as many reasons as possible to be interested in joining your club.
That's great too, David. Thank you very much. That's awesome. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, and that is we're going to talk about greeting the guests, and that's something that David just hit on. Let's go a couple steps at a time here. So again, one of the concepts that we've recently formed is having a role in the meeting called the Welcome Master. So the Welcome Master isn't necessarily your sergeant at arms or your vice president of membership, but it's one of your experienced members potentially who would be in charge of making sure that that guest is greeted, but also that they are seated by somebody else who's experienced in the club. The worst thing you want to do is take a brand new member and put them out in the corner, or putting all your I keep on saying new member, all of your guests in a corner, or putting all your guests together. Make sure that they're dispersed through the rest of your group so that they can get to talk to somebody and get their questions answered as well. The next thing is ask why they came. That is very powerful because in order to determine what potential solutions you can offer to what they're looking for, you've got to know what they're looking for. There is a reason why they came to your meeting. Most people who come into your meeting were actually looking for another event and accidentally stumbled into your meeting space. They came to your meeting for a reason. Just ask what it is. Why did they come? Um, the other thing is ask how they found the club. That is an interesting point because whatever that way that they found out about the club, you might want to expand that marketing aspect to go ahead and get more members to your club or more guests to your club. But it's one of those things where just ask, how did you find out about us? If it's a friend of a friend, maybe you can talk them into bringing their friend with them next time. So you never know why they necessarily came, but it's always good to ask them about that. The next one is explain the meeting format because Toastmasters meetings can be a bit overwhelming for some people. One of the aspects that I originally didn't appreciate at first is how much Toastmasters clap. We clap at every type of event. Whenever anybody stands up to speak, whenever anybody concludes their presentation, even the introductions of the different roles, we clap. And what we need to tell them, guests, is it's a part of edification. It's partly bringing up people, giving them the confidence to continue. Sometimes just explaining why we clap in a meeting will tell that guest that we value our members and that we value their growth and building of their confidence. So again, explain the other parts of the meeting too. You don't have to get into a lot of detail, but just let them know what to expect through the process. And next, ask if they need anything. Sometimes they'll come to your club and they may want some water or need to find the restroom or, they just need to talk to somebody. Ask them what they need. Can I help you with anything before we get started? Maybe they want to pick your brain about one particular thing before you get started. So just ask if they need anything. And then tell them, where the restrooms are. I talked about that. And ask them to sign the guest book. One of the important aspects is sometimes people literally have to leave right when that meeting ends. And you hadn't had the chance to talk to them, get them just to give you their contact information then. Before the meeting starts, either get them to sign that guest book, or I think it was Tyler who mentioned that there's a sheet of paper in their guest packet that they complete and turn into somebody. However you do it, but make sure you get their contact information so that you can invite them to come back again. And I think that's it for this slide. David, do you want to add anything more to greeting the guests?
Yeah, I've said this before in previous webinars. One of the things that everyone should really consider doing is having a committee set up and having a space between each of the existing Toastmaster members. So as the guests come in, you seat them next to an experienced Toastmaster who could talk about what's going on in the meeting, answer any questions and everything else. And then Don was talking about how sometimes the guests may leave before you have a chance to talk to them. If you strategically place some experienced members by the door to just, ask them a quick question like, hey, is there anything I can answer for you before you leave? Is it okay for our Vice President of Membership to reach out to you after the meeting just to let you know what we have coming up? Those type of things, because sometimes it's just as simple as just asking a question. Some people, they don't know what to expect after a meeting and they just immediately get up and leave. But if we at least ask them and show that we're interested in them and everything else, they may just stay. So those are just little pointers to try to maximize your event and maximize the time that you have with the guest. That's all for me, Don.
Thanks, David. Anybody have any questions about this part?
Could you repeat how we actually get that D40 you call it the packet, the new membership packet. You say you get 10 of them through the D40 website or something. How do we do that?
Yeah, so if you log into our d40toastmasters.org website, and then you just log in as a member. So you click on the button that says I'm a member. Then if you haven't logged into that before, you will be asked to provide a password. And so you can set up your password, etc. But once you're in it, there's just a section in that screen that says Open House Party Pack. Click on that Open House Party Pack, fill out your information, and then you can get your guest packets that way.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Open House Party Pack.
Yep, yep. And if you have any questions about how to do that afterwards, you can go ahead and email me, and I'll give my contact information at the end of this webinar.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Sure. And then the final thing is, I didn't go down far enough, but smile a lot. When you're greeting the guests, make sure you're smiling. Make sure you show that you are happy to be there. Again, your attitude, your mood will go a long way too. The next part is, we already talked about sitting there by an experienced member. Let's go to the next page. And it's understanding the selling process. And I'm going to move ahead a little bit so that we can see all the different areas on the screen. I like that a little bit better. Okay, so first of all, you need a strategy. David talked a little bit about the strategy of the selling process. You have to not be surprised when somebody walks in the door and trying to figure out what you're going to do with that. Have a plan for offering them that opportunity to join your club. You think about what is your merchandise, and in this concept, your merchandise, what you're actually selling is the Toastmasters experience. It's not anything in particular as far as, you're not selling a membership dues, so to speak. You're selling the entire Toastmasters experience. It's not just your club that you're selling either. It's an opportunity for them to go to any club around the world and still be able to participate in Toastmasters. So your merchandise is actually that entire Toastmasters experience. Everything must be organized. We touched on that earlier. Is you don't want to have a haphazard event. You need to be organized on how you are set up here. It's too late when you're actually at the meeting to go ahead and overcome poor planning. The best idea is to plan for how you're going to greet guests, how you're going to share with them the specialty of your club, and then how you're going to invite them to join your club. Here's the key point. I would say if there's one thing in this webinar we want to reinforce is you must ask them to accept your offer to join the club. And how I like to equate this in a personal experience or in a real life scenario is if you don't ask the question, you won't get the yes. And think about it this way. And a lot of people are really afraid to ask the question, would you want to join our club, or would you like to join our Toastmasters family, however you want to say it. And it's because they feel so personally affected if somebody says no to them. So here's a scenario I just want to put out there. Let's say that you're at a cafe and there's a waitress who has a pot of coffee. She comes to your table and says, would you like a cup of coffee? And let's just say you're not in the mood for it right now, or you don't need a coffee with your meal. And you say to the waitress, no, thank you, I don't need a coffee. Now, do you think the waitress goes back in the kitchen and starts crying because you said no to her? No, it just wasn't the right time. There are other people who may want her coffee. It may not have been that right experience for you to need coffee. But it's not something personal. But she at least asked the question if you wanted some. If she didn't ask that question, you may not have ever have accepted some coffee. So it's a scenario to think about. Is some people are so upset or so nervous about being told no that they never ask the question, but you must ask them to accept your offer of joining the club. And again, initially the meeting is that product for now. That one event or that one visit that they're making is a product that you're offering them to take from you or to accept from you. But once they do join and experience not only that Toastmasters experience within your club, they are then giving the broader experience of Toastmasters. And remember, you are doing them a favor by asking them to join. It's not something that they're doing you a favor if they join. You are offering the gift of Toastmasters. You have that opportunity to change their life. And think about this. How did your life change by joining Toastmasters? What are the improvements that you've had because of joining Toastmasters? You really need to offer that to them. And if you think about it, it's a gift to offer people to join Toastmasters. And some people, frankly, just need help deciding. If they aren't asked to join the club, they will never say yes. They will keep on coming back. They will say, oh, I need to think about it. And once you say, would you like to join our club? They will say yes, and they will do it. So David, do you want to add anything here?
Yes. Excuse me. Like Don said, don't be afraid to ask them. Even if they say no, that's okay. But the biggest thing is really find out why they came. If they came because their supervisor told them, or they have a big presentation coming up, try to find out why. And then it'll make it easier for you to possibly close the sale afterwards because you know why they're there, what they're looking for, and you could tell them, your personal story. Like Don said, think about why you joined. Think about why you stayed. And while you're sitting there talking to them, people love stories. We all love stories. Some of our greatest speakers within Toastmasters are great storytellers. Take a few minutes just to tell them, hey, listen, I joined X amount of years ago. This is why I joined. And I tell you, it's the best investment for me that I've ever made or that I've made in recent times or however you would like to word it. But don't be afraid to close the sale. That's the biggest thing. A lot of times we're not sure, should we ask at that first meeting or invite them back? Just ask them. They're only going to tell you one of three things, yes, no, or they're going to ask you the one question, and that'll just be, how much does it cost? And we know how to talk about that.
Well, how do you talk about that?
All righty. So with the cost,
it's over $100. It's over $100. So how do you do it?
No. With the cost, what you'll do is if someone says it, one of the best ways to do it is say, okay, so there's a one-time, lifetime membership fee of $20. So once you pay that $20, you're a Toastmaster for life. Then there is a $45 payment that we do every 6 months. And our cycle runs from 1 October through 31 March and 1 April through 30 September. If they come in between the renewal cycle, just look at the bottom of the renewal sheet and just tell them whatever the prorated rate is. So for right now, it would be $15.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay. Fantastic. All right, Don, that's all I have for now.
Okay, great. Thanks. So let's talk a little bit about how to close. So we talked about asking the question, but sometimes people aren't necessarily completely convinced, and that's okay. Sometimes people need a little bit more time. But what we found is just having conversations, as David was just talking about, can just remind them of why they need Toastmasters or what benefits they can get out of it. So here is an acronym for CLOSE, CLOSE, that you can use as a handy mnemonic of what you can do within your club to close. So C in CLOSE stands for compare. And you can think about this as compared to speaking classes, you have a better return on the investment with Toastmasters. I mean, I don't know how many of you have heard about the Dale Carnegie classes, but they're in the hundreds or thousands depending on what you attend. You know, as David just described, $45 every 6 months is less than, you know, a cup of coffee a day to be able to join Toastmasters. So, you know, think about that. $7.50 a month is really all it takes to be a part of this wonderful club. And it's not a one-time class or event that you go to and then you forget about it. And Toastmasters, it's a continuous building and improvement and learning by improving. L stands for lose. And a lot of people think, well, what do you mean? What do I lose? Well, you lose your nervousness, you lose your use of filler words, and you lose your excuses about trying to improve yourself. And then think about this. Of all these things that you've lost, what will you gain from the Toastmasters experience? Talk about what you've lost. You've lost your nervousness. You lost your inability to speak in front of people. But what did you gain? You gained your confidence. It's that personal story, as David talked about, really makes that connection with people. Ask for their opinion. Now, you don't want to typically say, what did you think of that, our meeting? But ask them, you know, what did you think of our meeting format? What did you think of the evaluations that you observed? What did you think of table topics? How do you think that could help you? Open questions in a way that makes them feel valued by giving them the opportunity to give you their opinion, brings them in back into the fold and really reinforces what they've just seen in the meeting. So here, and this is something that David just mentioned, stories. Tell the stories, whether it's yours or another member who builds confidence. I like to use the story of Beleen McCowan, who received 4 different promotions at work because of the confidence and the ability she has to speak publicly now through the Kruger's organization. Beleen has just seen so much personal growth, and maybe that's what they're looking for, is an opportunity to get a promotion. Find somebody who you can tell their story if that's not a story that you have about yourself. But what we like to say is facts tell, but stories sell. I'll say that again. Facts tell, but stories sell. Because facts, you can read about it anywhere. It's those personal stories that make all the difference. And then E as an example. Give them an example of a solution to what they came to find. So for example, let's say one of your guests wants to work on their interview skills. Give them an example that table topics can help you with your interviews by being able to think off the cuff or thinking on your feet. You're able to answer and formulate questions a lot faster with practice. You sold them. That's all you need to tell them is that. So the other acronym that we sometimes use, and we don't have time for it today, but I like to remind people about Carpe Diem. And I'm just going to ask anybody on the phone, what does the words Carpe Diem mean? Anybody?
Seize the day.
There you go. A lot of people have heard it from various movies. That means seize the day. But what I learned in studying it a bit is the literal translation in Latin for carpe diem is not seize the day, but rather pluck the day because the day is ripe. It's in a poem, actually, where they say carpe diem, pluck the day because the day is ripe. What I wanted to leave you with on this part is pluck the opportunity with your guest at the meeting, because the guest is ripe to be able to bear much fruit. I'll say it that way. There is a reason why that guest came to the meeting. You just got to seize the day or pluck the day, so to speak, because they are ripe. They are ready to become a member. You just got to find what it is to help them with that decision. David, anything else on this slide you want to talk about?
No, you covered that one really well. Not that you didn't cover the other ones well, but no, that was good.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Any questions? Or let me just open up any comments. Does this help you at all? Is this something you can resonate with, this technique?
Yeah.
Yes, it seems very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Okay, well, sounds good. Let's go to the next slide. And then what guests need to know and some frequently asked questions that they may have. And I'm going to advance here. Okay. Oh, wrong. One too many. I'm sorry. What guests need to know? First of all, what are they buying? So what does their membership include? That is really an interesting question. When people ask me, well, what do I get out of my membership? You first can say is by being a member of this club, you will have that opportunity to be put on the schedule to have your an ability to give your speech. We will train you on how to give evaluations. We will help you with table topics. You will actually be able to participate in the meetings and become on the agenda to become active members in that role. But that's not all. We also offer free training for leadership and communication every 6 months in your area. And we give you opportunities to self-navigate your leadership growth through an online program called Pathways. Now, I typically don't go into all the details of Pathways right at the beginning, but it's a good way to say, not only are you buying the experience in the club, you get a lot of tools and techniques, and you get a lot of assistance with your $45 every 6 months. And we already covered this, but a lot of times they'll ask, well, what does it cost? And David described that really well. What is the time commitment? And so a lot of people will be really nervous about um, having to spend hours and hours at a Toastmasters club. Sometimes people think that there's minimum attendance requirements, and you can explain to them, really what we're talking about is you're participating in during this meeting event. Now, you would want to, for your own development, outside the club, practice your speeches, prepare for your roles, but it's really not something that is significantly time oppressive, so to speak. Sometimes they will have a question for another question, and so be prepared. If you ask them a question, they'll ask another question, and you need to be able to navigate that a bit with them. They need to know one thing in particular, that if you are committed to them. So one of the things, assure them, is if you decide to join, we will be committed to you. We will help you. We will assign a mentor, etc. We will be there for you to help you out. Sometimes they'll ask, well, what happens if they miss a meeting? Sometimes in various experiences, if you miss a meeting, then you're kicked out of a club. We don't kick people out for missing a meeting. But the one thing we do ask, and it's part of the Toastmasters promise, is to try to attend meetings as regularly as possible. And I always recommend, as a common courtesy, if you can't make it and you have a role, just let us know in advance so we can take care of it. And then the question is, where do my dues go? And you can say the Toastmasters dues goes to our district and also Toastmasters International to help us continually provide the best benefit for our members. Sometimes clubs do have local club dues, and you can talk about those local club dues are used for supplies or materials or maybe marketing within your club charter or budget. So David, anything else on this slide you want to talk about? Some of the questions that guests may have? Or anybody else? Would anybody else like to add anything to this slide?
No, I was just going to say, just be prepared for most questions are pretty much standard from what I've heard from other members throughout the district. Usually the number one question is always, how much does it cost? What is the time commitment? If you just tell them, after you answer those questions, you can never go wrong investing in yourself. And this is an investment in yourself for self-improvement, confidence building, whatever the case may be, because that is the truth. And Don had talked earlier about the cost. If you think about it, if a club meets twice a month, that's really $3.75 per meeting. And you can use that either Dale Carnegie, John Maxwell, where they're paying thousands upon thousands of dollars. And, you could say, hey, listen, we're giving you this 26 times a year. If you're meeting weekly, of course, it's 52. So, point those things out. If you're meeting 3 times a month, make sure you point that out that, hey, you're never going to go wrong when you're investing in yourself. And reiterate, we're going to be there every step of the way. We're going to make sure that your investment is fulfilled, because not only are we going to help you, but you're going to bring something to help us out. So sometimes it's good to just tell them that they may have some ideas or whatever the case may be to help out the club or help out other members also. So it's a two-way street.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the next slide, my screen just jumped on me, is let's go into what to do when they ... So we have leave real quick, seem overwhelmed, don't want to do table topics, do want to do table topics, leave before the meeting is over and say they can't pay that night. And finally, they keep talking after the meeting is over and they don't join. And we're going to introduce a concept with fast track. So let's just go through these quickly. Is what if they do have to leave real quickly? That's okay. We talked about that before. The key on this is just to make sure you have their contact information so that so you're able to get back in touch with them before, later on after the meeting's over. Let's talk about seeming overwhelmed. Sometimes it's just so much information for people, even just observing a meeting. What I would recommend is just let them know, hey, it's okay. This may be a lot for you tonight. You don't really have to know what's going on here just to be able to experience it. But just know that we're here for you. We will be here to answer any question you have. So don't worry about having all this information given to you at once. We'll just be here as you're able to take it. David, anything else that you recommend when people seem a bit overwhelmed?
Just reiterate again, like Don said, especially the mental part, that you're going to have an experienced Toastmaster there to answer their questions, kind of guide them through their first couple of speeches and projects, just to make sure that they understand we're not just going to throw you out there once you join, you're on your own. That it's going to be a complete support system. But you have to make sure your club follows through with it, and that's the most important thing. Don't take what Don and myself are saying to you and say it and you're not doing it. Because now you're making it look like you were just trying to either get their money or fill a seat. If your club dynamics has a strong mentoring program, then great. If not, let's start developing a mentoring program so that you can make sure that your guests who become mentors have the right attention that they need, especially the first couple of weeks or months that they are in the club.
That's great. Yep. Thanks, David. Uh, the next group is don't want to do table topics or do you want to do table topics? My answer is either scenario is fine. It's whatever the person is comfortable with. I typically don't push people to do table topics as a guest because sometimes that really is a turnoff. But if they want to do table topics, I invite them up. I help explain what that role is, describe the timer lights or the cards because that's new to people, and then also just help them understand what's going on. But if they don't want to do table topics, I never pressure them with that. We talked about this before, but if they leave before the meeting is over, try to get their contact information earlier and then just contact them later on. If later on they say they can't pay that night, that's okay. Again, I'm not about a heavy pressure or high pressure sales. It's really whenever they're able to, but just offer to still potentially fill out that application for them. But when they're ready to make the payment, then you can finish it up with them. Sometimes they keep on talking after the meeting is over, and they just really just are talking your head off. That's wonderful. That means that the person really has a lot of questions. They feel comfortable enough talking to you. And sometimes, frankly, people are looking for clubs for that social aspect. Maybe they're lonely, or maybe they're looking for a group that they feel comfortable with. If they keep on talking after the meeting is over, and if you have the opportunity to stick around with them, just work with them. If you can't, maybe describe, hey, I can't talk anymore tonight, but I have your contact information. Here's my contact. I am welcome to talk with you again here tomorrow night or whenever. And let's say, what if they don't join? David wants to talk a bit about a concept called Fast Track that we offer now that you may want to consider to offer as an alternative from them joining on the spot. So David, you want to talk about Fast Track?
Thanks, Don. So, excuse me, about 4 or 5 months ago, Toastmasters International started this new program. It's called Fast Track, and it's for anyone who is actually interested in improving their speaking skills. It is a self-paced course where, let's say, ideally, you may know someone who's a friend of yours and their daughter is getting married and they want to get up and give a good speech, but they're nervous, they don't know what to say. Fast Track will basically help them do that. They will record themselves in the beginning, and then they will also do a couple of exercises, and then they will have a recording of themselves at the end. The good thing is it's not that expensive. It's like $5, and that's it. They will all there's a link that they'll go to Toastmasters International, and what I'll do is I'll send out the information to everyone again about how they would sign up. But basically, they could just sign up on their own. What I would also suggest is that maybe if for whatever reason they don't join, you offer them the Fast Track, you could kind of dangle a little carrot to them. Say, hey, listen, if you complete the Fast Track and you end up joining our club, we'll reimburse you the $5. Unfortunately, we can't prepay because when you sign up for it, what ends up happening, you have to put your actual email address in there. So otherwise, you could probably do a raffle. But there's so many different ways that you guys could kind of promote Fast Track, even to the guests who come initially. If you know people at work that you've talked to about Toastmasters, or your friends or family, and they may have said, I need to go, but they never went. Or, you just really want to talk more about Toastmasters, say, hey, why don't you try this out? There's no commitment. It's $5. Tell me what you think about it afterwards. And what we believe will happen is that you'll start to see more people who will be much more interested in pursuing Toastmasters afterwards, and they will probably end up joining your club or another club. But Fast Track is really it's a good little program. They're working on adding a couple of more different types of sessions in there, but right now the biggest thing is just being comfortable presenting in front of people. So it doesn't make a difference what it is.
Okay, thanks. Pause for questions at the end. At the meeting, what do you do? Well, you want to ask them what they want to know about Toastmasters. Again, you don't want to ask them, did you like our meeting, or what did you think about the meeting? But what else do you want to know about Toastmasters? I'll always smile, be friendly, respect their space. If it's not something that they really are wanting to talk about, just follow their moves there, follow their direction. Make sure, just to reiterate, if we haven't said this enough, ask them to join your club. And if you ask them, more than likely you will get a yes. Ask if they know someone else who would also like to join. Sometimes when you are having that conversation, they'll say, "Hey, my husband is really looking for something like that," or I know another friend who would be great. Ask them if that person would be wanting to come back to their next meeting with them. Sometimes people love to join different clubs or events in a pair, so just that might even make them more comfortable, more likely to join if they come with somebody else. And just remember, everybody in the club should cover their role at the end of the meeting, just to make sure that they are able to help that guest with that transition into the next stage. Okay, so again, on the next slide is when they do join, you want to make sure that you send them a welcome email and copy the rest of the club so that the club can also go ahead and send them a welcome. As David mentioned, fill out that application yourself. It's not only is it a way to take away the burden from the guest, that you are more likely to be able to read your own handwriting better than somebody else's handwriting. I found that out myself. You want to add them to your distribution list or your mailing list. If you use Free Toast Host, there's a way to add that to that. Have all the members reply again with a greeting. Expedite that member application. If you can load it in that night, the faster they can be enrolled, faster they can get into that way. Schedule their induction ceremony. And for the clubs who do induction ceremonies, that's a great way to welcome them into the club. Assign them a mentor and sign them up for their icebreaker speech. As soon as you get them more involved in the club, the more successful they're likely to be. And so in conclusion, so why recruit and help guests join? You get stronger clubs, and stronger clubs build strong members. More members will achieve more by having a richer experience. And remember, someone asked you to join. What would have happened if they didn't ask you to join your club? Would you be a member right now? So again, somebody asked you to join, do that same favor for somebody else. Change someone's life for the better, and I truly believe Toastmasters is the gift that we all should be giving to somebody. And that is it. So I know we're really close to the end of the session. I will just open it up. If anybody wants to stick around to ask any questions, we'll allow for that. Again, for those of you who do need to end here right on time, I would just like to thank you all. As David mentioned, if you registered for the webinar, we will get you more information. We'll send information about those guest packets, a bit more about Fast Track, and also provide our contact information to you all. But does anybody have any questions?
Hey, this is Brandon Clark here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, so we have in our club we have several guests who come, and they've come a lot,
Okay.
and we haven't converted them to members. What are there strategies other than I feel like I've done a pretty good job of giving them information on how to sign up. I can help them through the process. Are there strategies for those people who just are coming to the as guests a lot, which I still love, keep coming, but how do I get those long-term guests into members?
Yeah. What I like to do is I will allow somebody to give a speech at a meeting one time before joining, and it's because what I tell people is we really reserve our speaking slots for our paid members because that is their opportunity to grow. So really, with a guest, I would talk to them maybe a bit about. I would love to schedule you for your next speech, but to be able to do that, I really want you to be able to join us and experience all the benefits. So can I sign you up for a future speech and get you enrolled? Maybe try it that way. That's a technique I've used because if somebody knows that they're going to get something out of it, then they may more likely join. Let me ask anybody else, Gail, Steve, or David, what else do you have to offer Brandon?
Hey, Brandon, have you asked them why they haven't joined yet?
Usually when I usually mention it I haven't had one-on-one discussions with most of them. It's really just in the meeting. Some of them will say, the finances aren't going well right now for that. Or I would like to do that soon. And then, where there's no conversion.
Okay, so with the finances, that's a different question, different kind of conversation you definitely want to have one-on-one. Again, you could use the analogy, hey, it's $375 every 2 weeks, $750 a month, something along those lines. What would be comfortable for them to say, okay, hey, yes, I'm ready to do this. And then if they're saying it's not that time, so how many times have they actually come? Like 3, 4, 5 times?
More, I would say, 8, 10.
Oh, wow. Well, then you could say, hey, obviously you're seeing something in our club, so you could kind of use it like you're seeing something in our club, you keep coming back. We really, would love for you to join our Toastmasters family and get you started. And use like what Don said, as you know, this is for the speaking slots are for our paid members, and we really want to get you going and get you started on your Toastmasters journey.
I like all those answers, and thank you so much. I have another idea, I guess, and I want to run it by you guys to see what your thoughts are. Our club is very small, and we're at the point of where we're getting those warnings. Like, you've got a small club, you need more members. Maybe I say in there, like, hey, this club it could become extinct if we don't have some of you join. Not to pressure you, but if we want to keep meeting as a club, if you guys want to keep coming and being a part of this, we need some more people to join. Would that be an approach you might take?
Hey, Brandon, this is Gail Kelson. I hear what you're saying, and I'm going to just share my own information with you. That would be a turnoff for me. But I think what David is saying is probably a more appropriate approach, because if you present it in the way that you suggested, it almost sounds like we need your money to stay afloat. And even though that may be true, I think if you err on the side of caution and encourage them from what this club can do for you, you're spending your time and resources, let's make it official. I think if you do that, and I think also David might have said too, just talk to them one-on-one, because if you make a presentation in the front of others, sometimes people are reluctant.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, another thing you can offer is, hey, if you're able to do this, what we'll do, assign you an official mentor. Sometimes having that reassurance that they're going to get help, but it comes with the membership to have a mentor. Just enough to push them over that decision level. So maybe use the offer of having a mentor. Or get feedback here, but let me just. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, well, I'm not hearing anything else. Thank you all for participating. It was a great opportunity to have you all participate. I hope this was helpful to you. If you know of somebody else who you really wish would have heard this, we will post this link on our Facebook page as well as have it available on our D40 website. We will go ahead, as mentioned, send you out some more information, and we wish you all the best in your opportunity to help your guests become members. So have a good night, everybody. If you're driving later on, be safe, and we'll talk to you all soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for a great session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.